They didn't have colors. They didn't have turf.
Maybe you ought to show me your invitation.
Hell, they weren't even
How
invited.
do you figure?
But when the Warriors crossed their path, the Orphans finally had their moment. This is the gang no one took seriously.
No parlay.
We're not invading. And I'm parlaying right now.
We were just at that big meeting up in the Bronx. We're going home to Coney.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. How could this be a big meeting if the Orphans wasn't there?
They weren't flashy. They weren't feared. They weren't even invited. But they had numbers. Too many. The Orphans were nothing more than background noise in the gang landscape of New York. Dirty tees, no turf, no rep, and no swagger. Just a name and a sneer. But in a city fractured by war paint and street code, even ghosts cast shadows. Who were the Orphans? Why did nobody take them seriously? And why did the Warriors regret ever crossing them? The South Bronx, 1966 to 1971. The Orphans emerged from void, literally. The early members were kids whose fathers were either dead, imprisoned, or gone. Their mothers worked multiple jobs or disappeared entirely. The streets near Longwood Avenue and Prospect Avenue became their parents. The name Orphans was originally a cruel nickname, spat at them by a rival crew called the Rogues of Willis in '67. Instead of rejecting it, they embraced it. They painted Orphans on their shirts in block letters, a badge of abandonment turned armor. Their first informal leader was Lenny Popeye Mondello. Wiry, bug-eyed, and prone to violence when embarrassed, at just 17, he declared them official in 1969. The name stuck, so did the attitude. Ain't nobody gonna care for us, so we take what we need. That's the code. Their turf, whatever building wasn't burned out. Their home base, a basement apartment with plywood windows and rusted pipes. Their uniform, olive drab t-shirts, most of them stained, with the word Orphans printed by hand using black spray paint and cardboard stencils. The look wasn't strategic, it was affordable. They didn't wear colors, they didn't wear patches, they wore pain. By '72, the Orphans had grown, not in reputation, but in volume. With other gangs getting wiped out or drafted into the army or jail, the Orphans recruited anyone who got left behind. This made them messy but massive. At one point in 1975, they had over 40 active members spread across a dozen blocks. No hierarchy, no formal structure, just Popeye and his two deputies, Ricardo Pic Morales, sharp-tongued, afro-wearing tactician with a tendency to bail when things got too hot. Joey Nux Palermo, a brawler with chipped teeth and denim vest sleeves rolled tight around his fists. They were dangerous in packs, like feral dogs. But no one took them seriously because they lacked discipline. They rarely showed up to parlay meetings. They didn't run rackets. They weren't connected. Their only win? A 1974 ambush on the 10 Mile Wreckers, a small-time crew who disrespected their turf. The Orphans won by pure numbers, flooding the Wreckers' hangout with bottles, bricks, and bats. But even then, other gangs laughed. The Orphans ain't nothing but stray dogs barking loud. Enter Mercy. Nobody knew where she came from. Rumor said she was Popeye's ex or Pic's cousin, or just a girl who liked the chaos. But by 1977, Mercy was the most visible orphan. She had guts. She called out hypocrisy. She taunted rival gangs. And when the Orphans hesitated, she leaned in harder. Some say she embarrassed the Orphans into action. Others say they hated her. She wasn't an official member, but she wore the shirt better than any of them. The night of Cyrus' death, the Orphans weren't invited. That told them everything. When the warriors from Coney Island passed through their turf, Popeye saw an opportunity, respect through intimidation, but they overplayed their hand.
There's nothing wrong with you making it through our territory as long as you're coming in peace.
Mercy, ever the agitator, escalated things by siding with the warriors, or at least mocking the orphans' fear. When Swan offered peace, Popeye couldn't accept. His fragile ego cracked. The orphans got humiliated. Again, they chased legends and got torched for it. That heavy rep, it was all smoke and spit. The night the warriors walked through their turf and walked away was supposed to be the orphans' rise. Instead, it became their public unraveling. Within days, stories spread across the boroughs. The orphans got shown up by a gang on the run. Their girl left with the enemy. They couldn't even hold their block. The orphans were mocked at parlay meets, blacklisted from turf negotiations, and even had their claimed territory marked over by smaller, newer crews. By late 1979, they become a punchline. But humiliation doesn't always lead to silence. Sometimes it festers. In 1980, the Orphans fractured into two bitter factions. Greenbacks, the loyalists who stuck with Popeye, arguing their downfall was Mercy's fault and that outsiders shouldn't dictate gang politics. Jackets, a splinter group led by Joey Nux Palermo, who insisted the orphans had become too soft and needed structure, colors, and a real presence. The Jackets began wearing olive green jackets with O spray painted across the back, but it didn't take. They were viewed as a low-tier mimic gang and were eventually absorbed by a rising Bronx crew called the Savage Skulls. By spring of 1981, the orphans were all but gone. Popeye was rumored to have been jumped by 3 younger orphans in the stairwell of a housing project near Jackson Avenue. He disappeared after that. No one ever confirmed that whether he left town, got locked up, or worse. Pick Morales was last seen running a dice game near Simpson Street before vanishing after a bust. Joey Palermo re-emerged as muscle for hire in Queens, but his name disappeared after a bar stabbing in Ozone Park. No one wore Orphans after '81. No graffiti, no shirts, no representative, just silence.
You see what you get, warriors?
They didn't go out in a blaze of glory. They went out in fragments. The orphans were never built to last. Not in this city, not in that era. And yet, for one night in 1979, their name echoed across boroughs. That echo faded, but the lesson stayed. A name doesn't make a gang, respect does. Subscribe for the next gang origin in the Warrior Saga. Comment below, who deserves the spotlight next?